Welcome to episode 192 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here, and this week we're bringing back Every Album in a Row series, or what do you want to call it?
I think that works.
Series? Is that a good word?
Series, yeah.
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 Well, this time we've got our friend Brandon Dingler, the newer, I say
Yes.
new, he's not new anymore, but the vocalist of the band Driver, and we're covering Stone Temple Pilots. Looking forward to getting to this here in just a little bit, but we've got some stuff to talk about first.
Yes, we do. We do.
But of course, before we talk about that, we need to let you know we're sponsored by DEB Concerts.
And happily sponsored.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute is a DEB concert that happened just recently.
Of course.
But before we talk about that, let's talk about what's coming up. DEB is based in Tulsa. They do a lot of shows here in the Tulsa area, and we're happy to attend them because they focus on the genres of hard rock and metal from the heyday of the 80s and 90s that we grew up on,
That's right.
or the term you like to use, cut our teeth on.
Exactly.
Well, this Friday, just a couple of days, Tom Kiefer from Cinderella will be at the Ideal Ballroom. Tom Kiefer has a solo band that's excellent, and they play stuff from a solo album, and of course, tons of Cinderella. That show will feature Sweatin' Bullets and Evil Twin opening that show up. And then next month, on November 3rd, Kix is going to be at the Ideal Ballroom.
Hell yes.
Really looking forward to this. Kix is beyond amazing live.
Yes, definitely.
I don't say that lightly. Beyond amazing.
I mean, it definitely is. It's no bullshit.
Yeah. Sweatin' Bullets is also opening that, along with Rocket Science. And then going into December on the 8th, we've got LA Guns returning, and this time Junkyard will be there as well.
That's a silver tuna, Marv.
That's right.
Junkyard, right
Yeah.
there.
It is.
Telling you.
Finally going to see Junkyard live. Can't wait.
Yep.
That show will feature Grind opening up.
Can't wait.
So, great stuff. And then now, just the other day,
Mm-hmm.
they announced another show.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. This is, remember you used to bug Jake whenever he ran Downtown Lounge
Mm-hmm.
as a joke. Why don't you book Saxon? But
Yeah.
then, why doesn't the Canes or anyone, well, the Canes doesn't book many rock bands anyway, but
Exactly.
Saxon did come to Tulsa as part of the Judas Priest package, but
Yes.
we didn't really think we would get them here outside of that on their own.
Yeah.
Like we got lucky they came to Oklahoma City a few years ago, but here they are. February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, you and your fucking sweetheart can see Biff Byford and Saxon.
That's right. At the IDL Ballroom.
That's right.
I mean, when I saw this, my dick had a heart palpitation. I'm not kidding you. It did. I mean,
I believe that. 100%.
holy fuck. One of my favorite bands ever at the IDL Ballroom. It's just fucking, I can't fathom what it's going to look like. I mean,
You
it's
can't
just,
picture it?
I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, that's going to be so intimate. That's like, that is a once in a lifetime thing. I mean, I can't, it's different from when we saw him in Oklahoma City with Fozzy at that club. I just think this will be just hotter. There'll be a vibe.
Yeah, because of the
This is-
space it's in, the room
The
it's
space
in.
it's in, it's going to be insanity. I cannot fucking wait.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's fucking happening. It's just the fucking greatest thing in the world.
I know. And like you said, the Ideal Ballroom is a great place, and we love the fact that all these shows are there.
Oh, definitely.
Tom Green has an amazing establishment. And all these shows are all hosted by Eddie Trunk,
Mm-hmm.
which is very cool as well. So get out there, and if you're in this area of the country, check these out. You won't regret it.
Yeah, don't miss it.
Well, speaking of, like I said, DB concerts, last Friday, you made it out to the Sebastian Bach Monty Pittman show.
I sure did.
So,
I did.
So I was out of town, so I didn't get to see it. So
Yeah.
how was all that?
Oh, it was great. I mean, that was such a strong bill. I really think that Sebastian Bach had a good, mind, ear, whatever you want to call it, for a package. One Bad Son kicked the show off. If you they're from Saskatchewan. Canada. If you like,
Hey, can I catch you off real quick?
yeah.
Do you think they're friends with Coulter Wall?
See, I wondered that when they said that.
Okay.
I knew, he had a Canada patch on his jacket, but I didn't think about it till the end when they said they were from Saskatoon,
Okay.
Saskatchewan, and I was like, I wonder if they know Coulter Wall. And then I thought, probably fucking not. Those two artists couldn't be any more different. I mean, any more different. But I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because I thought that, Coulter Wall. And if any of you guys don't know who Coulter Wall is, yes, I'm going into it. He's a country guy, a real country guy, by the way, not a fuckhead bro country guy.
He's like 21 or something.
He's 21 and he sounds like he's about 80.
Yeah.
And he's like a fucking superb songwriter. So if you're into that, maybe
It's a voice that would make Waylon Jennings' dick have a heart palpitation.
Exactly. You're goddamn right. And just, it might not be our listeners' usual fare, but, when you're shaking off a hangover on Sunday morning, you got your coffee at the kitchen table, maybe.
Fuck it, don't wait till
Maybe
Sunday.
dial it up.
As soon as this ends, pull up Codeine Dream and just
Yeah.
feel it.
And then you'll thank us.
Yeah.
So anyways, One Bad Son, that's right. If you like stuff like, the New Roses or Dead Daisies, that kind of thing.
Shit.
You'll love One Bad Son. This is totally in that vein. They did a cover of Talking Heads' Psycho Killer that was really fucking cool. And that's just that kind of, it's hard rock and it's got that spirit of the 70s and 80s, but it's kind of updated for today.
Okay.
I think. And they were tight as a drum. Kudos to the guitar player. He broke his leg. He did the show in a chair.
Shit.
And he still fucking was headbanging and shit. So, I mean, One Bad Son. Check these guys out. They're great.
Right on.
Next up was Monty Pittman, who, like we've been talking about, he's Madonna's guitar player. He's been in Ministry. He's been in Prong. He's got 2 solo records out that came out at the same time. 1 acoustic, 1 electric.
And he's had like 4 or 5 before that. Those.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, and he had John Deddy on drums, who we all know is filled in with Anthrax, Testament, Slayer. He's played with Iced Earth.
Basically every Big 4 band except Metallica.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Iced Earth is a good substitute for Metallica in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Eli Santana from Huntress and Holy Grail on bass guitar.
Wow.
And he had a buddy of his on rhythm guitar. He said it was a friend of his he'd known since he was a kid. And I mean, I'm telling you, this stuff was great. It was just chunky, thrashy, heavy fucking metal, great vocals. Monty Pittman can sing like a motherfucker too. The instrumental breaks were insane. Monty Pittman is just a guitar player of guitar players. It was so fucking cool to see. It was so good and so electric and so riffy. It just went by like that, and you just wished you wish you could hit her like 10 more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Monty Pittman, that was fucking awesome.
You said John Deddy got a drum solo.
Yeah, at the end, kind of, when you're like ending a song, they kind of all stood back and let him go for a few minutes. And that guy is just fucking pummeling, an insane drummer. It was nuts. So, and when he introduced the band, he said all the bands that all these guys were in. I thought it was really cool that when he talked about Eli Santana was in Huntress, that got a really big applause. So that's cool, with all the Jill Janis stuff recently. So, I mean, that was just a great fucking set. So glad I got to see that.
Yeah.
Sebastian Bach comes up next. You know me. I'm not going to fucking I'm not going to bullshit. Okay. I'm not going to bullshit. I caught about 5 songs and then split. I'm not a big Sebastian Bach guy. I've told you this. I've said this on the podcast. I love Skid Row, but I don't know. I'm not a Sebastian Bach guy.
I don't.
I'm not trying to give it a bad review because it sounded great. Sebastian sounded awesome. They played Breaking Down, which I thought was super fucking rad.
When you said that at first, I thought you were joking.
No, I wasn't. It was fucking great.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's from Subhuman Race, people. Which, check it
right.
out if you never did.
Which is a great fucking record.
But see, that's the thing, I mean, I know you can't not like Skid Row.
Yeah.
When you look at, I mean, I was super bummed just because I've always loved that band and that guy. I mean, their first two albums are as strong a first two albums as
you're ever going to find.
Yeah, with just like, Pantera or Metallica or Led Zeppelin or Alice in Chains or whoever, you know?
Well, see, here's my problem. And it's my problem. And you've known this about me since we were kids. If somebody in the band is a dick, I don't like that band.
That's right.
And I have to and I've never been able to get over that. But, I'm sure that most people in bands are fucking dicks. Or that most people that we don't know in our favorite bands are dicks. Is what
They just don't make it as known as some guys do.
Don't make it as known. So it's like, why should I give a fuck as long as I like the music? I'm never going to meet this person or, hang out and play Yahtzee with them. What do I give a shit?
You don't know what's going to happen at Thunder Underground Fest 18. You could be playing Yahtzee with Sebastian Bach live on YouTube.
Well, I would welcome that still. So, that's why I never glommed onto Guns N' Roses like you did, even though they're fucking genius. So, and that's my fucking hang up. Fuck me, whatever.
Well, see, my thing with Bach, I always let it as a pass because sure, the guy, would say some stupid stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I let Axl Rose have a pass too, but that's where most people wouldn't. But the thing with Bach is he never did any of that shit when it came to the live show,
Yeah.
If there's a Skid Row show or a Sebastian Bach show, Sebastian Bach's there and fucking plays the show and sounds great.
You're right. And
Axl, of course, had that long period in the 90s and even early 2000s where, the show might not start for 2 hours or whatever, which is bullshit, but whatever.
True. So see, what do I know? I'm a dumb dick. I don't know. But I will say, because it's funny, I went to the show and I heard more than one person in passing or just, talking about the show. The whole "it's not my job" thing came up more than once.
And no one's going to get that except for local people anyway.
And one, okay, that's old news. Let it go. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, it
and
was
two,
funny
he was
first.
fucking right. I will fucking back him on that.
Absolutely.
He was fucking right. It wasn't his fault that the bird ran into the transformer and set the whole show back. It wasn't his fault that no one knew how to fucking run the soundboard and turn his fucking mic off when they shouldn't have.
Right.
So there shouldn't be anybody flipping him off, telling him we can't hear you. It's not his fucking problem.
That's right.
So anyways, I'll just wrap that up. That was my Sebastian Bach experience.
When he opened with Slave to the Grind, right?
Yes, he did.
That's what he always does, I believe.
Yes.
Just fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, totally. What's and see, I'm not as inured in the deep cuts of the first album as you are. Here I Am. Is that just what that's called?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I heard that.
Okay.
They played that for sure. So.
Like he obviously has said is 90% those first two albums.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll play all that stuff like
Yeah.
Here I Am, Making a Mess, Sweet Little Sister, Rattlesnake Shake.
Yeah.
Or not,
Piece of Me or some shit.
Yeah, Piece of Me. And then, I mean, there's not as many, I guess, deep cuts off Slave to the Grind that he'll play outside of, I know he plays The Threat a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
We played that at Rocklahoma. I just wish he'd play like, Quicksand Jesus and Wasted Time.
Yeah. Yeah. Frozen, whatever.
Yeah. Into Another.
Yeah.
One day we'll hear it when Skid Row finally reunites.
I still think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I assume it will.
So we'll
Rachel
see.
Bowen will finally just be like, fuck it. Let's just get it over with.
Let's just get it over with and, make our $2 million and go home.
Yeah. Well, so I was bummed I didn't get to see that, but I'm looking for the fact that I get to see Kix and Junkyard and Saxon all coming up at the Ideal.
And Tom Kiefer.
Yeah, and of course, Tom Kiefer.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I did that. What did you do?
Well, during that time, I was in California at Cal Jam 2018.
Nice. I'm impressed.
I did not see Deep Purple anywhere, so it was kind of a letdown Cal Jam for me. But I guess this is 2018 and not 1974, so maybe that's why. But Which, by the way, that's still one of the greatest live things I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah, I know.
People have never watched that Deep Purple from Cal Jam. It's like fucking Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale, and
Exactly.
that whole era of the band is amazing. But yeah, I worked at Cal Jam, so I didn't see a ton of it.
Yeah.
Because actually when I was working was 13, 14-hour overnight shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the day I could have seen some of these bands, but I was like, I don't want to.
You're so fucking tired, yeah. I get
But
that.
I did get the opportunity to hear Foo Fighters Soundcheck.
Yeah.
And I also heard the soundcheck from the band Thunder Pussy, which I've always meant to look into just because it's kind of intriguing, that name, but I was always kind of annoyed as well that I'm like,
Yep.
Look, Alabama Thunder Pussy has been around for fucking
Yep.
20-some years.
And
now this band
did
just
it
comes in here out of nowhere and we're supposed
Yeah.
to give a shit because you stole someone's
and
name.
just because Alabama Thunder Pussy isn't around anymore doesn't mean you can just
Yeah.
take part of the name.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if Metallica broke up and I just started a band called Licka. I just don't think that's cool.
Right.
So, yeah, no,
But I will say I heard it and this woman sounded pretty amazing
Okay,
from the
cool.
sound check I heard. But I saw the end of Billy Idol's set, the last 3 songs,
Nice.
which don't really need to get into because we just talked about that on the last episode,
Yeah.
or 2 episodes ago when I saw him here in Tulsa. Of course, that was badass. He headlined the Friday night. And then Saturday, Foo Fighters, of course, headlined. The show also featured Iggy Pop, which I heard some of from a distance, which was really cool. I know Thrasher got over there and got to see some of it.
Mhm.
And then Tenacious D played, Garbage, Greta Van Fleet, a few other bands. There was, I think, probably 10, 15. And then I made sure I was over there to hear some of the Foo Fighters. I heard the first couple songs, Run. They opened with Run and Sky is a Neighborhood.
Nice.
Then I got back over there a little bit later when they played The Pretender and Best of Me.
Okay.
Pretender had a huge long middle jam part, which was really cool. And then I wasn't over there during the Nirvana reunion,
Okay.
but the place that I was at, I could hear it perfectly. So I did get to hear it live.
Really?
I just didn't see it. So at first I didn't know who was singing until later on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you even looked up. Did you see the set list of the songs they played?
Yeah, and I can't
Yeah, well, they played 3 songs with the singer,
from Deer Tick.
singer slash guitarist.
Yep.
And they played Serve the Servants, Scentless Apprentice, and In Bloom with him.
Yes.
And then Joan Jett came out and they played Breed, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
And All Apologies.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's cool. There's 6
Yeah.
songs, 3 from Nevermind, 3 from In Utero, and then
Mhm.
3 of the songs were radio hits and 3 of the songs were like album deep cuts.
I think that's great.
And that was a
That's
great way to do it.
balance to do that.
because
Yeah.
they could have easily played, Lithium or Something in the Way or
Yeah.
Come As You Are, all this other shit that was huge
Mhm.
hits, but they decided to, Breed. That's it. I haven't got to, I can kind of hear it, but I really want to go find a YouTube video of that.
Yeah.
Because I went back and watched a couple of them late last night after I was home,
Okay.
just to see it visually.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've mentioned both of us before. We actually mentioned it here in a bit in the Stone Temple Pilots thing. Me, you, and Brandon all said they were
Mhm.
least favorite band of that whole genre of bands, But I don't dislike them. And
Yeah, I'm the
of course,
same
we
way.
love Dave Grohl and his attitude, and obviously
Yes.
that expanded even more once Nirvana was done.
And when once you've had so many years go by and you've matured and you've thought about things in different ways
Yeah.
and whatever, I don't need to be their biggest fan to hold them in a very high regard.
Right.
Yeah,
because I mean,
which I do.
during that period of time, there was barely anyone any bigger than that.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe, Metallica or something.
Oh, exactly.
And
Yeah,
Guns N'
definitely.
Roses maybe. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't listened to, outside of when I'd hear it on Sirius or something random,
Mhm.
I haven't willingly just decided to listen to Nirvana in years and years until today.
That's cool.
After
That's cool.
I'd been thinking about it since that,
Yeah.
and I listened to Nevermind today for the first time, who knows when, and I'm like, I had the album back then,
Yeah.
and I just forgot. I'm like, all these songs are good except for Come As You Are. I fucking like, and
yeah. I don't know that I ever heard In Utero in its entirety, but I thought Heart Shaped Box is just a brilliant song. I love that song. Back then I was so anti Nirvana because they killed my metal, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's just how ignorant I was to all that. And then when I heard Heart Shaped Box, I was like, fuck, I love this song and I don't want to.
But see, the thing is, you were that way with them, but you still accepted Soundgarden and Alice in Chains.
I know. What the fuck is wrong with me? I can't. I'm not going to say all that shit was right, what I was thinking. It was just, where my brain was when I was, 19 or what the fuck ever it was. Yeah. 18.
But, no, I mean, this was really cool to be able to hear this, I think. And it's cool that it happened. It's the first time that it's happened at it happened at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the same two people filling in. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time it happened like at an event where the public could be there. And I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time now that it's happened.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was him and Pat Smear already there, so all that had to show up was Novoselic and whoever they want to sing. And the possibilities if they did this again are endless. Totally. And of course, everybody started mentioning Sean Morgan from Seether, which, as much as neither one of us really care about Seether, obviously it would work.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, Wes Scanlon would work if he could show up to the venue.
Yeah. Well, he's been sober for a while, and supposedly he's doing the damn thing. So,
yeah, and I'm sure he would show up for that, because that's the kind of shit, you probably dream of. But,
yeah.
I
don't know that Nirvana would go that Seether Puddle of Mud route.
I don't think, because I think it would piss off too many, purists.
Pure alternative purists. I think they're going to keep it kind of, how they've been doing it.
Yeah. But, because Joan Jett, I even saw people bitching about that, and I thought it was, because, I mean, everybody that knows anything knew Cobain was into punk and shit and championed a lot of female singers. And I'm like, who's bigger than that, as far as someone taking that role,
And people shouldn't bitch at all anyways.
Who cares?
They can do whatever the fuck they want. They are the surviving members of Nirvana.
Yeah.
They can do whatever the fuck they want.
And the cool thing is when you watch the videos and see Dave Grohl playing drums, he still looks exactly like Dave Grohl playing drums did 26 years ago.
Exactly, Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But there you go. Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, that's my experience as far as hearing the music. I
see.
First time I've been to San Bernardino. Pretty beautiful.
I'm glad you got to go. I'm glad you're working these kind of things that you're doing lately. It's good to get kind of an inside track on these things. That's cool. Cool to hear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out is I did get to, there's a comedy tent where they, Jamie Kennedy and Harlan Williams, a few other people. I know that girl from Saturday Night Live you mentioned, out there doing just, stand up in this tent, outside the venue.
Which one from Saturday Night Live?
I don't remember. I remember when I showed you the list or whatever you said you knew who it was. I didn't.
I don't even remember that.
But I got back over there pretty late. I think the first night. Yeah. And after all the comedy ended, there was a guy in there interview. I don't know if he was a radio host or some writer or something, but he was interviewing the guitarist from the Pixies. Mm-hmm. And I got to hear a lot of that, and it was, cool. Pretty interesting. And then just the stuff they talked about. But then the funny part was Jamie Kennedy was drunk in the crowd heckling him and telling him to show his dick. And I don't know if he knew. I guess they knew each other because he was kind of going along with it. They weren't get this guy out of here or whatever. But
that's nice.
Yeah, random note is the guy I worked with had to help get Jamie Kennedy out of the venue later because he was that drunk.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
So there you go.
That's your Cal Jam experience. I like it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Speaking of Sean Morgan, you saw Seether, right?
Yeah, I did.
All right, next subject?
No, I mean, I'll talk, me and my girlfriend went to the fair Thursday night. And we were going to meet, a lot of her family out there. And Seether happened to be playing. Everybody that listens knows I am not a Seether person.
In fact, they're one of the bands you mention when you're trying to talk shit about someone else.
Yes, pretty much. and they are just totally not my thing. But my woman is amazing, and if she wants to go see Seether, we'll go see Seether.
Right.
I'm not ashamed of that. That doesn't bother me. I do it gladly. Because my girlfriend is a legit human, unlike, others in the past that I've been involved with that we won't go into. So, anyways, we stuck around for probably 45 minutes or so. It was, Seether, whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
You got to see John Humphreys.
I just got to see John Humphreys and the Nixons, and it just made me want to listen to the Nixons. So we did on the way home. And I've been on a pretty big Nixons kick since then.
That's the best review ever.
Yes, and so now I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have saw him. But that was the day we were interviewing Anvil.
Oh, that's right.
And then the next time they play Oklahoma City is in between Hatebreed and Ghost.
Right.
They're playing the 25th.
They had played again in Oklahoma City like late last year.
Yeah. And then, or they're coming to Tulsa with the Smashing Pumpkins in December. But
that's right.
Do I want to go see Smashing Pumpkins?
Well, if you could get a ticket for free, you might go, right?
Well,
because then you could leave.
You're the guru on that one. Get us a podcast with them.
With John Humphrey.
There you go.
Yeah. Or Zach Malloy.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Billy Corgan.
No.
We'll talk about wrestling.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know what to talk about with Billy Corgan.
You could figure something out.
I guess so. I don't know.
Okay, then enough of that.
So yeah, that's that. Whatever.
A week and a half ago, Louder Than Life was supposed to happen.
Oh shit! Forgot about all this. Yeah,
you were going. It got canceled due to storms like mass flooding.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, you took a road trip to see other bands.
Yeah, we said fuck it and went to Denver to see Greta Van Fleet.
Right. At
the Fillmore, and that was quite a show. Dorothy opened, and I know a lot of people are digging her. I've heard that name for a while, and she was really good. She was a lot more organic and earthy, and than I thought. I thought it was a little bit more radio rockish.
Yeah,
I think just maybe because like the bills she's been on.
Right.
But no, it was a lot more in line with Greta Van Fleet or whatever. You could totally see her with like Rival Sons or Black Crows or whatever.
Oh, the Black Crows are back together?
No, I'm just like in that kind of.
I know what you're saying.
Oh man, you're killing me here. But it was one of those shows where it's like I wish I could tell you every facet of this show and every song and everything I saw, but it was one of those shows that was so annoyingly sold out. As you put it, was it annoyingly sold out? I think is what you said.
Yeah.
And that's totally what it was. It was so fucking packed. There was people fucking everywhere. We found one place that was kind of cool to stand, that was kind of close, but it was right by a thing of steps to go up. So we got kicked out of that real quick. And I mean, the only place to stand, and we got there, we even got there early before the opening act. The only place to really stand was like in the back. So it was just, kind of silhouettes. But I mean, I know that, Greta Van Fleet, they sounded amazing. They played every song that they've released. You look like you want to say something, so I'm going to go ahead and let you say that.
Well, I didn't want to cut you off, but
no,
because I looked up. I mean, I think the next day, knowing you'd win, I just looked up their set list,
mm-hmm.
and I understand they only have those 2 EPs out,
yeah,
and then a couple other singles. That album's not out yet, right? I'm like, so sure, there's not a lot of material, but they only played 10 or 11 songs as a headliner.
Yeah, they played. That's the thing I thought. The only thing I thought was odd is like, wow, they played an hour and 5 minutes. Because there's a couple songs where they went off and did like long jams.
Because I could think.
So it really was like an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10 minutes maybe.
That to me is annoying as fuck.
And I thought that was odd. I thought that was really odd.
I mean, you don't have to play Ramble On or In the Evening, because that's what we're expecting. You could fucking play, Toys in the Attic.
Yeah.
Or just just some random like Howlin' Wolf cover or just something like just throw in a couple covers at least to extend this thing to at least an hour or 20 or something. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was, I mean, we were back to our room on the balcony having a drink by 11. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
I just thought, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up because I just was like, wow, they could have, I don't know. Huh. Wow.
It's like when we saw the Donnas way back at the Canes, I was so pissed. Yeah. Even though I was still in love, but I was just so annoyed. I'm like, you just played like fucking an hour and 1 minute.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
If that was like 57 minutes.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, so, but yeah, like, I think, and I'm bad with their song titles, but I think it's the song Flower Power that has the long organ thing at the end. Is that Flower Power?
I can't remember.
I think it's that one, and that was cool. They had a long drawn out where the bass player just plays that organ forever, and that was fucking rad. And the way they had the lights, they had a really cool light show and stuff. But yeah, and I would hope and I would think the more they get into this, and they have they're gonna have longer sets.
Oh yeah,
they need to anyways. I know that.
Maybe they just don't want to play covers or something, and it's like they're just going with the material
they
have.
It's like, here's the thing is, I heard a couple songs I didn't know, and I know they have that album that's about to come out. Yeah. So they've got these 2 EPs, and they've got this album. Surely they can play
something off it.
Something.
Because they've, released 2 songs from it, I think?
3 now. The one I haven't even heard.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. But, I think that'll come with time.
Yeah.
So, but I was pleased, I was entertained. It was a great show. You're in Colorado, so it's weird to go out to the smoke hole and everybody's just smoking weed,
Right.
Well, like it's a cigarette,
didn't think about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's cool. So, that was my Denver Greta Van Fleet experience.
Right on. Well, is it time to get into this?
I think so.
Subject at hand.
I think so.
Well, real quick, we would talk about this more coming up when there's more news, but Megadeth started releasing band names.
Oh, yeah, for the Mega Cruise.
Yeah, and so far we've got Testament, Anthrax, Armored Saint, John 5, Corrosion and Conformity, Metal Church, Metalachi, and Doro. And Beasto Blanco.
And Devil Driver.
Oh, and Devil Driver.
Yep.
I mean, when you say COC, Anthrax, Testament, and Megadeth, that's enough to make me move a little ways across the country.
Yeah,
but then you throw in all this other shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's a lineup of lineups.
And they said they're still announcing more.
Yeah, it's a damn shame I won't see it.
You never know. You might convince yourself. This is like the motorboat, where you'd see the lineup and you're like, there's 15 bands on it, and you legitimately love 14 of them. And the 15th one, you're like, yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's
so
crazy.
And that's not common when you have a big lineup of bands,
I know.
So
yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
There might be more.
But speaking of music you can see soon, October 19th and 20th, the Venue Shrine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Thunder Underground Fest 2018. What do we got? Zen Hipster. They were just on this podcast last episode. I didn't say welcome back at the beginning of this thing. Anyway.
Welcome back.
Yeah, you weren't on the podcast last
week.
Week.
Well, it was okay.
Yeah.
I needed a break. I needed some personal time.
Right.
But yeah, we got Zen Hipster, whoever they are, I don't know.
Yeah.
We got Severmind, Driver, fucking Fist of Rage, Wooden Bone, fucking the Normandies, Murderous Mary, Custom Black, Locust Grove. I mean,
looking forward to those two big time.
Oh yeah, fucking Less Than Human.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, just off the top of my head, so much more.
Sign of Lies from Parts Unknown.
Yeah.
CJ and Dell from Grind playing acoustic. Sprout the Anti-Hero playing acoustic.
Yep.
And like you said, there's Steve Ray is hosting the thing.
That's right.
Both nights. The second night is the Great Pumpkin.
Yes.
And just a couple episodes ago, he talked about all that.
Exactly. Go to our Facebook page.
Machine in the Mountain.
Machine in the Mountain's going to be there. Fucking A. the fucking events on there hit going. You're going to love it. I mean, it's going to be great.
Yeah. So, yeah, like we said, 19th and 20th, and you'll hear us talk about this again next week.
Of course.
But you mentioned Driver, and Brandon, the vocalist from Driver, is on this podcast as a guest / not really a guest this time, just more of a guest host, if you would say.
That's
almost.
right.
Because the three of us are just talking about Stone Temple Pilots. So
Yes.
if you haven't listened to this before, what we do on the Every Album in a Row thing is we listen to a band's entire discography in order, whether it be, what was that? 7.5 albums from Stone Temple Pilots, up to we did Megadeth. That was like 16 albums, I think. So you just start at the beginning, listen to it straight through, and then come together and just talk about how, the band progressed or what you liked, what you didn't like.
Yes.
That whole kind of thing. Because most people, like Brandon even mentioned in that thing, most people don't ever do that, And,
Yeah, true.
and we kicked this off way back with Metallica, like a year and a half ago now. We've also done it with Megadeth, Ozzy, Van Halen, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Pantera. We recently did Alice in Chains. And we did this thing with Kiss
Yeah,
as well with CJ from Grind.
that's right.
And CJ was actually the first person we had on as a guest to do it with us.
Yeah.
And then Brandon, I believe, had saw you at some concert and mentioned that,
Yes.
hey, I'd love to come on and do this as well. And we talked about it when we did it with CJ that it's really cool to have another perspective, especially
Definitely.
when someone's a huge fan of that said band,
Yeah.
So it really adds to the element of, just bringing in, whether it be more knowledge or just another opinion or whatever.
Yeah.
So when Brandon mentioned Stone Temple Pilots, we both, jumped on that because we're both fans.
Yes.
And I thought it was a good idea too, because it's a band that, as we talk about here in a bit, that I think even Brandon said the same thing. You kind of let it slip for a while. And I mean, as far as paying attention to him, and kind of came back around in recent times.
That's right. Yeah.
So it wasn't like Megadeth or Metallica where it's always been 100% like
Yes.
paying attention to what's going on, So it's a little more interesting, and it's also good to get bands from other genres because we kind of stuck to the metal or the classic rock thing like Van Halen.
Yeah, true. So it was good to get some kind of, exactly.
Yeah.
So for all you out there, guys in bands, whatever, the next few we're going to do is Bay City Rollers, Jimmy's Chicken Shack,
Yes.
Kenny Chesney. So if you guys want to get on that train and break those down with us,
hit us up.
Let us know. Yeah, hit us up.
Yeah, if you're a massive Kenny Chesney fan, just don't email thethunderground@gmail.com. Email jasonpaulwood@gmail.com.
Jesus Christ.
Let him know about it.
Thanks. I try to joke around. This is what you do to me, Trent.
Right. But no, let's just get into this.
Yeah, definitely.
This is Stone Temple Pilots' Every Album in a Row featuring Brandon from Driver. So we listened to 93 songs
Okay.
over 7 albums.
You've got the stats. I
Yeah.
like it.
7 albums, 1 EP, and then 5 non-album singles. And then another thing I found out when I was coming up with those numbers is that every album they released with Weiland on vocals went into the top 10 of the Billboard charts.
Really?
The other 2 did not. Even the one with Chester.
Wow.
But I guess just kicking this thing off, like, before we get into core, do you remember the first time you heard them? Is it one of those bands that you can remember?
Yes. I mean, for me, it was just hearing them and seeing them the first time. It was a Sex Type Thing with Headbangers Ball. And that gets into that whole era that you and I have talked about before. it's like 92, so you're getting the best of the new grunge stuff coming in, and you're getting the best of the metal, and, you're getting, even some of the, the melodic hair bands, if you want to call it, that are still doing cool stuff coming in. So that was at that time where there's so much cool stuff across a few different genres. And so a lot of stuff from that time stick out to me. That was one of them. Visually, because it was, they all had long hair except for Weiland. He had his head shaved. So back then that was like a, something that caught my eye. And they were heavy, but there's something dissonant about that song, Sex Type Thing. And I just, I thought it was a pretty rad song. Definitely a good first song to hear from a band. So yeah, that was my first taste of STP.
Yeah, I think Dead and Bloated was the first song that I encountered on them because they had a big push on it. But then I immediately, I think was part of those record clubs, BMG or Columbia House or whatever. I ran into Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, Tool, and about 3 other bands all at the same time. In just like one of those big 12-disc buys, and they were all my penny, my 1-cent discs, if you will. So yeah, I was able to get a bunch of them at the same time, and the song that caught me, right, just like that was Wicked Garden. I just, that song was the tits to me right at the time. Yeah. And Dead and Bloated brought me to them, and then Wicked Garden sold me on them. And I think it's really the heaviness with the pop influences is what did it for me, because at the time, for me, I didn't like country music per se, but I still liked Garth Brooks pop country at the time. Mm-hmm. But then I'd swing all the way over to Twisted Sister, but they were like a happy medium because they were using pop hooks and pop melodies in heavy music, and it's something resonated there, and it just instant brain candy. Yeah.
What about you, Trent?
That was Sex Type Thing, and I actually remember the first time I ever heard it. For some reason, that just has always stuck with me. Like, they weren't getting played on the radio in Tulsa yet, but I was in Oklahoma City with my family on a trip, and we were in my parents' old Econoline van. Remember that blue van?
I remember. Yeah. Had a TV in the back.
Yeah.
And that was crazy.
That's our class.
I think we were in Oklahoma City, so we must have been coming or going from my grandma's house, and we stopped at a gas station, and it was on the Cat. And the song started, and I just sat there and waited for it to end while everybody else is in there getting snacks or whatever, and I just couldn't, it was like, because like he said, I loved all the hair band stuff and loved Megadeth and Metallica and whatever, and I really got into Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and everything around that time. So hearing this kind of fit right in with that, and Sex Type Thing is still my favorite song of theirs. Yeah. From that moment on, pretty much.
Well, I think from there we can just kick off into Core, the first record.
Yeah.
I'll just say, I'm kind of just, expounding on what I just said, was there's so many hits and memories with this record and infectious melodies. And you're talking about Brandon Pop, it almost didn't seem like a grunge band to me at times. It was just like a heavy rock band or a hard rock band. And you mentioned Wicked Garden. That, to me, that's my favorite fucking STP song of all time. That was just, it was so like, I'm really just repeating what you're saying. It was like it was heavy, but it was like, it was catchy and it was bright and it had all these colors, but it was like cool at the same time, and it was heavy. And I think that for me, that's just like their best moment. But, Naked Sunday was cool. Cracker Man, and of course Dead and Bloated. This is one of those albums. It's I hate to say, this is first album's their best record, but for me, it's kind of like they blew their wad early in a way.
Well, for the most exposure, and that happens with a lot of bands, is where they'll have a back build of songs from a couple of years before they get noticed and before they hit. Yeah. And so that first album will have a lot of cream on it from a couple of different years. And then when they're asked to produce albums, then you get a couple hits per song.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realize is this
Because they had like
cycle.
3 months to write. Hey, you got it's got to be done by March.
Then
or
they're on
whatever.
timelines after that, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna pump out as many as we
Yeah,
can." You know,
exactly.
what is that? Dave Grohl says the formula: pump out 30 songs and take the best 10. You know? So-
Well, to me, those first 3 songs are as good as 3 songs opening an album ever.
oh yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
could put that up there with the beginning of Master Puppets or
Yeah,
anything.
you really
know?
could.
oh yeah.
And Dead and Bloated, so many people cite that as their favorite. And I mean, that's probably, like you said, those 3 songs might be my 3 favorite songs there. There's other ones we'll talk about later, but I mean, another thing to randomly point out is earlier this year, I was hanging out at the lake with your drummer, Josh,
Yes,
and Dead and Bloated came on, and he mentioned that
he loves that fucking song.
he thought it was the greatest snare sound ever in a song. I don't know if he's exaggerating, but there's that.
Yeah, there's
I
that.
can't say one way or the other, but
When I first joined Shiner up in Wichita, they were mainly a cover band that was just playing clubs, and they're aspiring to play bike rallies and casinos, and Dead and Bloated was on the set list. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I got to sing STP publicly there, and Dead and Bloated was on that set list, and there was one more that we had flirted with putting on the set list. I think it was either Plush or Interstate, but either way, that song was kind of them bursting out of the gates, and then the way that I experienced them was it was like Machine Gun. They hit you with this song, then this song, then this song, and then like 6 months later, then they hit you with Creep, and it's like well, then there's this, and you see a whole other side of the band, and then within a year you start seeing them on VH1 with the acoustic, the one that thanks you, the acoustic Plush comes out all of a sudden. It's like they're just. So they were so versatile, and I don't know. A lot of people were able to connect with the band, and I think their marketing team did a brilliant job bringing them out hard, and they had an amazing album. Yeah, it's a good start.
Definitely a good start. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's pretty much every song on this thing is great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wet My Bed's like the only filler track, and that's not even meant to be something more than it is anyway. But
Piece of Pie is huge.
Yeah.
To
me, that song sounds like Alice in Chains, like early Alice in Chains vocally,
totally,
and lyrically even. Like Sin is a real huge arena rock style song, like you kind of mentioned that with other stuff as well. But
it's in a real big feel to it.
Yeah.
And that's one you just like to turn it up and get that that big feel to it.
Yeah. Even the guitar solo is even arena rock sounding almost.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And in Plush, I mean, I don't know what you can. I mean, I don't even know how to explain that song. Like just the guitar sound and everything. And that to me, it's just so unique, even though it's so basic at the same time.
Yeah, it was definitely something like I'd never heard at that point. And that's when I knew, okay, yeah, they're a pretty good hard rock band. But that's when I knew, okay, now they're getting up to a different level. That song hit hard,
Yeah.
That
was people went nuts for that tune.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is after you find it's always fun after you hear a band and then 9 months or a year and a half later somebody comes up to you, did you ever heard of this band? And we're like, well yeah, I've been listening to them for a year and a half. But yeah, and it's a lot of that effect. But with them, it was that effect for a couple of years because even as newer albums came out, and more people got exposed to them. It kept having that effect. So, and it's like I said, they had a stellar first album. It's very, very few bands could push an album that big and have that many just great songs compiled on it.
Because even Cracker Man was a I don't know if it was a single.
It's no, they didn't put any marketing behind it.
But it was just still so. It was
the
one he did with the megaphone, and
Yeah.
everyone loved that song.
Yeah, people now that even aren't diehard people will reference that song.
Oh, in their live show, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's like you said, when he brings out the microphone and he was there on stage and he's doing his dance, as only he could do.
Yes.
First time I saw Grind, they played that song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. But like you mentioned, after the album was out, then they released the acoustic version of Plush, which I know they did that on MTV Plugged in '93, but the version that was all over the radio, I think, was from a radio station or something, because it's not the same.
Yeah, it was something they played in a studio.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was a Headbangers Ball thing.
Oh, okay.
They played acoustic on. They were live in their studio for that. I could be wrong. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite acoustic versions of a song ever.
Yeah.
It's just because it's so different than the original. It stands alone as its own song. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you can listen to them back to back and not really feel like you're listening to the same song twice. You know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they slow the tempo. They bring it in how it's supposed to be acoustically, and yeah, that's actually really the mark of a great song is if it can translate into different mediums.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I always make this joke. It's like when that lounge singer, Richard Cheese does "Down with the Sickness," you know? But it translates and it's still hilarious, you know. But yeah, it's anything you can always mark a great song by how it translates into different styles, but it still has the makings of a great song. It's got the sing-along chorus, or it's got everything that sticks in your head. It's all the markers are still there.
Right.
So yeah, it is what it is.
Well, moving into 94, in June of 94, they released Purple.
Yes, they did.
And, you know, right out the gate, when you hear Meat Plow, it still sounds similar, but his vocally is starting to change. Mm-hmm. You know, the sound-wise at least. But the first time I heard Vaseline on the radio, I was literally like, what the fuck is this? And I still don't really care much for that song. I think it's because it was so embedded in me that I was so annoyed when it came out. Yeah. But now it doesn't bother me at all.
Well, they played the shit out of it too.
Yeah, they did. Well, here's something. I'm just going to interject. From this point on is where this band showed me that they have 2 or 3 distinct faces, because you always had, and they never, you know, and there was a point in the 90s where, you know, alternative and grunge took over, and a lot of people, you know, changed and took on those tendencies, and STP did that, but they also kept their heaviness. So you'd have STP had the heavy songs, but they also did this, you know, it's like the production on like Purple and Tiny Music sometimes got a little lo-fi and a little, you know, taste of the day.
Yep.
But, you know, they would do these, you know, jangly alternative, you know, they'd throw in a weird chord here and there, a jazz chord, you know, and they kind of really like, the rest of their fucking career straddled that. I mean, right. They would have these weird little alternative songs, and then the very next song would just be, you know, just a riff meister. Yep.
Well, you know. That's really, honestly, that's where you can see label influence stepping in right off the bat.
Oh yeah,
because they're saying, oh well, here's Nirvana with this mega giant, you know, hit, and you know the rest of the Seattle sound that came out right around that time, and basically that's you can usually attribute that to their label saying, okay, well, we need a couple of these type of songs.
Yeah. So
they're giving in and doing that as they need to, but then they're keeping the stuff that they like to play, and I mean it's really a balancing act. They are straddling, but it's usually a balancing act in those situations. And a lot of times you can see in a career arc, it's kind of like I like to call it pop music theory, but anything that's been recorded and marketed to people, you can usually see a very similar arc where you've got the raw artist sound of, you know, first album, sometimes first and second album, but then subsequent albums they try and you can see them getting led down a certain path. And you can see them getting led a certain direction, and that's not always the band that dictates that.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, like you said, they're trying to pull from different. They're trying to pull their regular heavy, you know, everyone that they sold on that first album. They're trying to keep all of them happy with a certain amount of tracks, but then they're trying to attract fans of this and fans of this with other different types of music as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's not to say that this album doesn't have its memorable moments, because it does. I mean, you know, my notes have got Meat Plow, obviously. Vaseline, I always liked that song. Sorry, Trent, I still like it.
Oh, I don't dislike it.
I mean, yeah, but Interstate Love Song, I mean, come on. I mean, I know I'm hitting the singles here for a minute, but I mean, that song is so catchy and so infectious.
Yeah. And
that's what I'm talking about. They've got that side, and they've got and they never... To this day, they still do that kind of thing. So, you know.
Well,
But-
I'm into tracks. Obviously, Interstate Love Song I've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
And Vaseline I've heard just as many, and they still have replay value.
Yeah.
But and the funniest part is going back through this. You listen to them again, and you hadn't heard them maybe in a couple of years because you had heard them 1,000 times, so you put them in that back burner. But then you hear them again, and then you hear something you hadn't heard before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's that guitar riff? I don't remember that being there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But then the two more tracks that stood out to me on that album, besides obviously the singles, and was Big Empty and Pretty Penny.
Yeah.
So I've always had a soft spot for Pretty Penny for some reason. It's
that was a great song.
It's one of those songs that hit me at the right time, and I was able to relate to, with something that had happened in life. And, that's what good music does. You can relate to it and remember certain times of your life because of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Unglued and Army Ants were on my notes. I thought those were great songs.
Unglued and Lounge Fly are my two favorite songs on the album.
Lounge Fly, right on.
And then Kitchenware and Candy Bars is a song most people don't ever bring up, and that's a great song.
Yeah, it is.
You kind of forget about.
I'll give you that one. Yeah, for
Shove
sure.
it there at the end of the album.
When I'm listening to the album, there were certain skip tracks. Kitchenware was always a skip track for me, but then after about 5 years, it started becoming a regular play track.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things, and I love how that works because there's certain tracks where you're like, oh, skip, when you're listening for certain things in the music, but then later on, you're listening to older albums. And go back and listen to older albums that you hadn't listened to in 10 years, and tracks that used to be skip tracks now. Chances are they won't be.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, as your musical tastes, develop and change and stuff.
I mean, that's kind of something we've noticed doing this thing, because we've done this probably the 8th or 10th one we've done, and there's some bands you love, like, Ozzy or Megadeth we did this with, and we get deep in there, and I'm like, oh shit, I used to just skip over this song. That's amazing,
I used to fly by this one.
Yeah. But you mentioned Big Empty, and that I'm pretty sure that was actually released before the album came out on the Crow soundtrack, right?
It was on the Crow soundtrack.
Yeah, that one was on the soundtrack.
And that's,
son of a bitch, I forgot.
To me, that song sounds like it could have easily went on Core.
Yeah,
it's the only song that fits on Core because of his vocal style. The other songs like Meat Plow and Unglued or whatever that are a little heavier still don't have that Core feel to them. But yeah,
that's one thing I'll say that throughout the arc of the music that we listen to is. They were never able to replicate the Core sound. They were able to take elements of it and put them into other songs on other albums, but they were never able to, in my opinion, replicate the fullness of sound that they burst out the door with.
Right.
On Core.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Purple, you see a little bit of it. You just see, instead of there being, talking about pretty much every track on the album, you're talking about half the tracks. And then we get to the third, fourth album, fifth album, you're talking about one track, two tracks. Mentally, that's what stuck out to me going through this anthology was that it's like a trickle down, and it's not that they lost their magic. They're amazing. And everything, you listen to every track and you listen to intricacies of every track as you're going through this. But you just see that. And I'll get to that when we get to number 4. I had some notes on number 4 that I think you guys will. But we'll come back to that.
Well, before Tiny Music came out, they were on the Led Zeppelin tribute album.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They did Dancing Days. And I always loved their version of this. It's pretty, straightforward, similar.
Right.
Only thing, obviously, he's not really singing like Robert Plant, but he's got that same style going. And to me, you mentioned Pretty Penny. I didn't even really think about it until I came back to this, that kind of had that same feel as Dancing Days in a way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a little brighter, but...
Mm-hmm.
I always love that version.
Hey, man, Zeppelin lives in us all.
Oh, yeah. But then, in March of 96, Tiny Music Songs from the Vatican gift shop came out.
All right, well, this is where I'm going to go take a piss, guys.
I don't...
Yeah. Okay, look, I'm just going to...
Go ahead, say it.
It was just lazy, lo-fi production.
Yep.
This was just like I was okay with Purple. I understood, you're gonna evolve a little bit, and okay, if you evolve again, that's fine. But I just didn't like it. I don't know. I think that Big Bang Baby, I thought was I don't know. I liked the video because it was like this lo-fi. Just they did it like a public access show or something. That was funny. Yeah. But really, I don't know. Tripping on a Hole in the Paper Heart, and it picks up, and oh God, what was it? I'm finding it. Oh God, it's just the art school girl that picks up, but Lady Picture Show is just like, I don't know. I just from what they were the first two albums, this was just, I don't know. Like I said, it just felt lazy to me.
To me, there was nothing for the fans. Even with Trippin' and Big Bang, those were the two songs that they pushed, that the label pushed, which is fine. But they're also two of the better songs on the album. The rest of the stuff seems like it's watered down and like it was catering to something that they didn't need to cater to.
No, I mean they were so established already as what they were, and
it's like they were trying to expand their audience to a softer audience when they didn't need to. They already have this rabid fan base with the third album. Why go softer? And the thing that was one of the things that was noticeable to me on this album was the lyrics were all watered down too. There was none of the lyrics you hear off of like Dead and Bloated or off of Plush or even Sex Type Thing. All those lyrics were very poetic. Were very they were out there, but it was very Scott Weiland. With this, I think I don't know if there was somebody else involved with the lyrics or what was the situation by now or by this time frame, but the lyrics were very watered down. You listen to it and you're like, it's not what it was.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, Tiny Music, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
When we were starting this, I was excited to listen to this because I had it in my head. I don't like this album. I haven't listened to it in forever, so I thought going back to it might, kind of like what we talked about earlier, might rediscover stuff. But that was absolutely not the case.
So true.
It's, I mean, like you said, the sound of it, it's just the guitar is just real weak sounding almost, tiny, and it's 1996 and it sounds like a band that came out in 1996.
Exactly, man. That's a great way to put it, and that's why I just thought, come on, guys.
Yeah. Like if this was Harvey Danger or fucking, Dishwaller or
the
something.
pop sound, yeah, they went for the pop sound, yeah.
And Tripping on a Hole in the Paper Heart was their first single, and they were a one-hit wonder. And then I found this album and listened to it. I'd probably think, yeah, this is an underrated album from a one-hit wonder band.
Right.
But you hear these songs and you know what the two albums before brought. It's almost like when I heard Load by Metallica. I'm like, if this was any other band, I'd love it. But it's not. It's the band that wrote Master Puppets and Ride the Lightning, so this is fucked up.
Yeah,
exactly. But see, now I go back and hear Load, and I think it's fine, but that's not the case with Tiny Music, so I don't...
Well, there were several songs on Tiny Music that would have been perfect theme songs for, like, the Friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're writing theme songs now. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Like, Tripping on the Hole in Paper Heart's probably the best song on here to me, and I don't even want to hear that.
No, yeah.
Right.
Like Tumbling
And
Around
I just feel dumb saying that title. I don't know.
Right.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I was worried I was going to rail on it.
You're safe.
I knew he didn't like it, but I was thinking, oh man, Brandon's going to love this and we're going to piss him off.
Yeah, I was going to skip over to that and forget, but that works. That's the, the roller coaster down.
Yeah.
You're good.
Well, 3 years later, in October of '99, number 4 came out.
Thank God.
Yeah. And they redeemed themselves.
I was about to say, they redeem themselves.
In my opinion. That, right out the gate, the song Down is better than everything on Tiny Music combined.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But
he's kind of getting back into his that core type singing a little bit.
Right.
Well, and lyrically, it was an uptick in lyrics as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the lyrics on Sour Girl alone were worth it.
Yeah. True.
But it goes into what you said earlier about they couldn't really recapture core, and as good as Down is, it's not better than anything on core. Mm-mm. I don't think it's better than any of those songs.
Yeah, I don't know that they were trying to recapture core.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I just hope that.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. Maybe they never were, but I'm just saying it's not at that level. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, if fans come from a fan standpoint, because I've always been a rabid fanboy of STP as far as that goes, as far as just being like, yes, God, where's the music coming from? And just trying to, from a fan standpoint, if they had released something with the same feel of it, even a couple tracks, just to hey, this one's for the fans of this all the way through to keep our base audience satisfied, and then this stuff is for our shifting momentum that the label wants us to take. If they had even tried to do mixes like that, it would have been fine. But with the curveball they threw us with Tiny Music, then to step back in with the number 4, still you look at it and it didn't push the heaviness as much as Core and half of Purple at all. They didn't try to recapture the heaviness. They were still staying they were still erring to the side of light, which is what they went too far with Tiny Music, but then just kind of came back and tried to find a middle ground with number 4. Yeah. And they did it right. They did right by a couple songs, but there were still a few in there that could have easily been TV theme songs. There's still probably 3 or 4 different songs on going through that album that could have been easily just pop culture TV song, TV show themes. So
what you mentioned is what Pearl Jam did better than Stone Temple Pilots, because that that first album's masterpiece. Second album is really good, but there's a few things, whatever. Right. And in that third album, where STP took the fall off, Pearl Jam kind of went back to that darker sound almost with Vitology, But anyway, that's not really the point of this thing. But
that's for the Pearl Jam episode. That'll take us a year to do.
But you're right.
Yeah, somebody
I know, they got so many damn records.
So many live albums, too.
How dare they be prolific? Those bastards.
Why do they keep making music?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what they do for a living.
What if we did every live album in a row of Pearl Jam?
Oh, my God.
Just the live ones alone.
Yeah, we'd be here till, I don't know, 2032.
But No Way Out and Heaven and Hot Rods are both great
No Way Out
rock songs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're pure rock songs. For sure.
I love Pruno. That was awesome.
To me, outside of, just the feel of STP's back, the highlight of this thing is the 3 ballads are like as good of ballads as they ever did, besides Creep, probably. With Sour Girl.
Sour's right up there with Creep.
I Got You and Glide, which Glide is so that's so real pop, but to me that's such an amazing song that I gravitate towards it every time I listen to that album,
Yeah, other than Down, I Got You was the song on that record that I always hit repeat.
Right.
Yeah,
Down and Sour Girl were my 2 repeats off that. There's the other stuff didn't really completely ring a bell, but I do remember I Got You very well from that. And I don't know, it was probably one that they should have pushed more from the label. I mean, that was one that they missed. I think they missed the ball on. If they just tweaked it even slightly and put it as a radio single, it would have done fine. But
both those, Sour Girl and I Got You.
Well, Sour Girl got some force behind it.
Did it?
It got some national.
There's a video because What's Her Face is in the video.
God, who was that?
I don't
know. I don't remember either. I didn't
Some
watch
actress that was in a show at that time that was popular.
And it's 99, so who remembers that?
Yeah,
It's 20 years
exactly.
ago now. Holy crap, time's flying.
Yeah.
Was it Alicia Silverstone, like the Aerosmith video?
No, I would have remembered that.
Me too. We have Liv Tyler and Alicia Silverstone. At a strip club on Amateur Night.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Do I remember that? No, I don't remember that at all.
Well, the next year in 2000, they were on the Doors tribute album with their version of Break On Through to the Other Side.
I wasn't real fond of that one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it since back then, and I like the fact that they kind of gave it their own spin, but it's not like amazingly memorable to me.
Right.
No,
That's the only one in all these cover songs they did that I think they really made their own.
It's like they gave it a spin just to give it a spin, not to make it sound like them.
Yeah, they took a lot of liberties in those verses, and I was just like,
Well, I know he played it live with the Doors as well.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that on YouTube when I pulled this up. I watched that, and it was good. But yeah, Shangri-La Dee Da came out in June 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where everything was starting to kind of rediscover for me, by listening to this, because it's been probably 17 years since I listened to this, because I know I had the album and I listened to it when it came out a decent amount, but it just kind of fell off. Right. And then, after that, if I listened to STP, it was the first 2 albums,
Yeah.
But Dumb Love's a great kickoff song.
Great opener, that's what I had on mine.
Same here. Well, my notes on this are pretty simple. Shangri-La-Di-Da. What I was looking at on because I also tend to look at it from not from a business perspective, but just see what song got pushed, which song they put money behind, which song they did a video for, which song they marketed, and the only song that they marketed off this and unsuccessfully was Days of the Week.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was a good song in its own, but it was really light. And I personally think Dumb Love and Too Cool Queenie were way better songs.
Yeah, those were.
Way better songs. And to me, that's the cream of the album. Obviously, is those two.
Yeah.
But then they, I'm not sure if it was the band or the label or whoever, but because you never know.
Yeah.
So without seeing the anthology of,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they missed the ball on those two songs, pushing those as singles instead. When Days of the Week failed, and they'll say the label was the one that pushed them into doing Days of the Week as their single. They should have immediately came back with, okay, great, let's take Dumb Love and do some and push it.
Yeah.
But it never happened.
Yeah. I like Coma,
Yeah.
Hollywood Bitch. That was cool. I mean, that was a good song.
Had some bite to it, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought finally, the weird production of the last few albums was gone. Number 4 and Shangri-La, they're getting back to, sounding good. Which was great. It's like, be soft if you want, just fucking sound good,
Right.
So I was really happy about that. These last 2 albums that we've talked about, Long Way Home, anyways, that, that had a good stomp to it. So
Yeah, to me, throughout this whole thing, you hear a Beatles vibe. Influence.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And you mentioned the pop thing early on. You can hear that throughout their whole career. But Days of the Week is almost just like, hey, let's sound like the Beatles,
yeah.
Yep.
I get that.
But
Days of the Week, 8 days a week.
there you go. I thought the slower songs on here, like Wonderful and Black Again, are good, but they don't stick with me anywhere near the level that the ones we just talked about on number 4 did.
Right.
And the sound on this album to me seems more balanced than the last couple albums, but the second half of the album isn't anywhere near as good as the first. It's like if this was a vinyl, I would probably not flip it over. Like
Yeah.
I'd listen to side A and then just be done with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly what you mean there.
Yeah. But all right, so then after this, they released the Greatest Hits album in 2003, and it included a new song called All in the Suit That You Wear. And I remember that getting some decent radio play, and I liked it back then, and I hadn't heard it in a long time, and listening to it again, I thought it was good. It could have easily fit on the last couple of albums.
Yeah, I liked his vocals on that. He kind of went deeper at the start of it. I kind of thought that was cool.
So stuck out, yeah.
Yeah, it
Love
was.
the song.
It was an okay song for sure.
You can kind of tell that the song was modeled around the vocals versus just being each member of the band doing their thing. I think they built that around the vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then they broke up, I guess, at this point.
Yes.
And they came back together, and
We'll just say hiatus. That's
because I think they came back together like 2008 or 9, but then they released the next album in May 2010, which is self-titled.
Wasn't Revolution Tribute in there somewhere?
Oh yeah, I forgot to write that down on here. But yeah, I listened to that. Yeah, so they did the Beatles tribute as well. They love doing these tribute albums, right?
That Revolution song, their version of that, I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked it better than their Doors song because they stuck to the formula of the song but did it their way. That's the differences that I was listening for. When somebody remakes a song, I listen to, okay, did they keep the integrity of the song but do it their way? That's really all primarily what I listen for.
Yeah, because Revolution's got that raw, gritty vocal like Weiland, was great at anyway.
Their voice would fit it, yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
could've picked a
Revolution
better
is a
song.
song that tons of people have redone throughout the years, but you're right, this one stuck to me a little more than most people's versions of that did,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there you go. But so then, May 2010 was the self-titled album. I guess now we can say the first self-titled album.
Yes.
STP Deluxe.
Yeah. So, to me, when I listened to this, going back, this was, kind of new to me as well, because I haven't listened to it in 8 years. And the sound kind of picks up where Shangri-La-Di-Da left off.
I get that.
But it's almost not even as memorable as Shangri-La-Di-Da. And we were
No.
talking about how that was kind of like,
No.
But it's not that it's bad at all, but it just doesn't really hit me, or any songs like jump out that I want to like go back. I need to listen to this again.
I'm guessing they felt the same way because
Yeah.
there was nothing that was really pushed on that song
Yeah.
on that album.
Really?
It was like, oh, here's STP Deluxe, but I don't recall a single off that album.
Yeah.
So, like, off of Shangri-La-Di-Da, they pushed Days of the Week. That was the only song that got money behind it, where they actually did, Radio Blitz and all the fun stuff that you normally see. But I don't remember a song from Deluxe at all having that.
Right.
And, so I know there's a song I like off of it, but that's not the song that got put. It's not any that got pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I thought Peacoat and Fast as I Can were pretty cool.
great songs.
Those work. I liked Hickory Dichotomy. I think in those verses he's kind of channeling his Michael Monroe a little bit, just a
nice.
little bit.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Cinnamon I thought was dumb. It's like, are they trying to get on Ellen? Is this like Dog's Eye View or some shit? I mean, what the fuck? I couldn't wait for that song to be over.
Right.
And those are my thoughts on the first self-titled. If any of you guys like Cinnamon, I apologize.
I didn't like Cinnamon, but I did like Hickory.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool song.
That's my one shining light off of
Okay.
the album is
Okay.
that song. Everything else to me was kind of take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I liked Huckleberry Crumble and Hazy Days, as well as the songs you mentioned, but I didn't like them to the point, kind of like you said, that
they
Yeah,
weren't
exactly.
They weren't
Exactly.
replay special. They weren't that
Right.
song that you're like, oh hey, there's that song again. Hit it, and hit it on replay. It's like, yeah, okay,
right.
So,
When, like I mentioned before, with the Beatles influence, you can hear that a lot, even more obviously on these songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's just a thing that they were intentionally doing, or they were just trying to be more straight up
well, musically,
pop and rock, but
Yeah.
it just shone through more to me now, I guess.
I know exactly what you mean. That you can definitely see their roots in that, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting at. Also with Deluxe, they hit a musical thing with Deluxe that because this was their last album with Scott Weiland, but they hit a musical thing with Deluxe that you hear almost. It's like the three musicians had found the spot that they wanted to stay in and that they wanted to continue in, because for the next couple albums you hear the same feel through the majority of the album, just with different singers. Nice. But yeah, it's the same feel, and I think they had found where they wanted to stay,
Right.
And that's a good thing for them, I guess. And that's Dean DeLeo, Robert, and Eric. I think they locked down the sound that they wanted to go with from there going forward, because you see, Core is real heavy, then Purple gets a little less heavy, then Tiny Music goes off into Never Never Land, and this is just the arc. And then number 4 tries to bring some of it back, but still has remnants of Purple and remnants of Tiny Music. It's kind of like a mix in between. And then Shangri-La-Di-Da, they polish it up a little bit and put a little more production into it. And by Deluxe, they had better production, and so I guess they had more of the machine. But then in the next 2 albums, the production stays almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
The production you see with Chester Bennington, and the production you see with the new singer Jeff Goot, the production of the instruments and the production all the way through just feels the same for the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of cool to notice things like that, and you only notice things like that when you do something like this, when you go through an anthology of the artist.
Yeah.
So that's the things I'm looking at, going, wow, So,
Yeah. There was a random note. I don't know why I didn't write this down in my notes, and I planned to, but there was a couple songs on this album so I can't remember which ones they are, that I heard a David Bowie influence, from Weiland, which I think you can hear that at other points.
Yeah, I can see that at times. Yeah, for sure.
Well, other than the Hickory Dichotomy, his lyrics are still watered down too.
Yeah.
That's the
Really? Yeah.
the lyrics are still, very. They're a lot more simple than what you're used to from them.
Mm-hmm.
On the first couple albums, and it's like, where did his poet go?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is during that kind of lost period with them too. Maybe he was just kind of phoning it in at this point, I think.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, that brings me to a point that I heard somebody say. I can't quote my source because I can't remember who it was, But they said as an artist, you get to a point where you do everything off of instinct initially, and then as you grow and as you get further and further along, as you start seeing what works or what is pleasing to the people around you, you start doing more and more of that. You start focusing on the things that you think of that work, or the things that you think of that are, taking more experience than instinct.
Yeah.
And I think in Scott Weiland's case, when he was operating off of instinct, we were getting like pure genius out of him. Yeah. But then as he got further along in the career, and this could have been the drugs, this could have been the just the career arc, but the more experience he got behind him, songwriting, lyrically, it lost its magic.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just one of those things that way. I don't know if he did all his own lyrics, but it went from amazing, just poetic, because I listen to lyrics a lot. It went from this amazing poetic, just masterpieces, and it just got went down and down and down.
Yeah.
And got more placating, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
that's
like
a good point.
Like it was dumbed down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that. That's a good point.
Well, moving in to 2013, we got the first album with a different vocalist.
Yeah. And
they did this EP called High Rise, where they got Chester Bennington on the vocals.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome.
I remember when I first heard it, I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. But then when you hear him sing, it's like you never think about how much he kind of already sounds that way.
Yeah, my note was like, it's kind of his version of Weiland.
Yeah.
Not him trying to be him or anything, but it's just his version of what he probably thinks those songs should sound like, because it's one of his favorite bands. So, I mean, I thought it was cool.
I mean, right out the gate, the music to me just seemed to have more attitude to it than the last couple albums, and it's just more of a hard rock feel and more just kind of urgency. That's the word you always use.
Oh, yeah.
And it, like you said, it sounds a lot like Weiland, but it still sounds like Chester.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish, I just kind of wish we could have gotten more
me too.
of him just to see what would have happened with that,
Oh, yeah, all they did was an EP, but he's burning the candle at both ends.
Well,
at three ends anyway.
I know they did that one tour, and he had to go back to Linkin Park, but...
Oh, as soon as I heard that they put Chester Bennington at the Reigns of Stunt Pilots, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm naturally surfing YouTube by then, looking for him doing all the old STP stuff before the singles came out, this is an album. The 5 songs, and again, reiterating what you guys just said, there should have been more. They should have locked themselves in a room for 6 months, wrote a bunch of songs, and took what floated to the top.
Yeah,
but. Maybe that's what they did, and they only came out with 5. But still, I'm really glad they seem to let Chester have carte blanche with the vocals on it, because you gotta remember, with Linkin Park, he's only half the time, because him and Mike Shinoda are splitting the bill. You've got the rap and the fast paced verbal versus and then he comes in with the vocal.
Yeah.
Well, with this, he's carrying the whole load for the first time ever. So that's something you got to look at too, and he does it stellar. He does a stellar job doing it, and there's just the whole 5-song EP I just was into.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
the only other note I had on that was like I said before, they kept their musical edge. That I felt they caught a musical edge in the 2010 deluxe album. The vocals and the lyrics weren't there for me, but the music had found its own life, and they kept that musical edge and went a little harder with it in this album. And then Chester Bennington coming on top of it complemented them so well.
Yeah,
it was a perfect fit. It was a really good fit for them.
Yeah.
So if they could have stolen him away from Linkin Park, they probably,
Yeah.
But he already had a multinational selling band, Linkin Park. So.
Yeah, to me, I've never been a huge Linkin Park fan, and honestly, it was because Mike Shinoda bugged me, and I don't have a problem with rap rock or even rap.
Right.
I just didn't like Mike Shinoda, and I always liked Linkin Park songs that were heavy on Chester or entirely Chester. So to hear this, I'm like,
yeah, it was awesome.
This just makes me wish that Linkin Park was
well,
this way.
and that
I
was
would
always
love
the thing
Linkin
is
Park,
I mean, I'm the same with you. I was never a huge Linkin Park fan, mainly because I don't really like rap at all. But Chester Bennington had such a great fucking voice, and it was so powerful, and I saw him live. I saw Linkin Park with Metallica once, and I mean, that guy is just insane. He can hold the mic way out here, and I mean, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, moving along, 5 years later, moving into this year, actually, in March, they released the self-titled album with their new vocalist, Jeff Goot.
Yes.
Well, this is one little side note here. This is after a 2-year search and battle with their label on who should be their next singer.
Wow.
Because in early, like January 2017, maybe it was even December of 2016, they started a lead singer search.
Right.
Where they did a search through Indaba Music. I only know because I was part of it. I put out, I sent in 2 songs, and we had just finished the first Shiner album, and I wasn't able to send them any of my original material because we got it back like 2 months after the deadline.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went ahead and sent them to what I do, Interstate Love Song and Vaseline. And I think on the old Shiner Reverb Nation page, both of those tryout songs are still on the bottom end of that music.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go check that.
But I went. We had just finished working with John LeCompte out of from Evanescence out in Little Rock, and he called me up and he's like, "Hey, did you see this thing? There's some processing for a new lead singer." He's like, "Your voice would kind of fit that role."
Yeah.
And so I went out there and we did the 2 songs, sent it in, did quick 1-day record, and sent it in. And apparently, from the behind the scenes stories that I've heard on this, is that the band wanted one singer, the label wanted a different one, and the management wanted a third one. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, so there was a tug of war, and it just took a. This is just hearsay, but this is what I've heard from people that would know something at least. But yeah, there was a tug of war, and that's the reason it took them a year and a half just to bring out the new singer and get him out, was because they never finalized on it.
Wow.
So, but then they settled on Jeff Goot, who his voice is perfect for him.
Yeah, it is.
I remember reading there was thousands of auditions and stuff.
Tens of thousands.
Like how did that work? Did they say send anything you want, or did they request you to send STP songs?
No, it was basically the way the tryout was supposed to go was you were supposed to do they offered 3 backing tracks, and you were supposed to do at least 2 out of 3 of the backing tracks. I think it was Sex Type Thing, Interstate Love Song, Vaseline were the 3 that they sent tracks for, that they had tracks readily available for people to download and record and send in to them, just show what you could do kind of thing. And then you were also supposed to send a track of another project you were working on, something that shows your songwriting skills, because they wanted to see that you at least knew what you were doing in the lyric department. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what that part of it was about. But like I said, I had to send them something old stuff that before we were able to come up with our polished album, because we were 2 months behind. We didn't get our final tracks back until 2 months after after the deadline, and I was like, wish you could have gotten that, but So it was really cool though. It was a really cool process and everything. I got to meet some cool people that way too. So
yeah,
right on. But yeah, that was the basic process. Was Indaba Music did that, and then through Indaba Music they just started narrowing it down from there. Okay. And then the funniest part is they ended up with a guy who didn't even submit through that.
Yeah,
right.
A guy that was found on the X Factor.
X Factor, yeah.
X Factor, one of the TV shows.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, well, I was going to ask you this after the fact. I'll just ask now. Like, as a singer, what do you think about singers like this that are like emulating someone so closely that it is obvious what they're doing? I mean, does it bother you, or do you think in this case it doesn't matter?
There's two standpoints of it. He's making a career out of it, so good for him. Yeah. Good on him. If he can make a living doing it and he loves what he's doing, more power to him. On the other side of the coin, it does end up being the fact that they're coming out with new music is great.
Right.
But the fact that what they're touring is primarily all the old STP stuff, and he's trying to sound like Scott Weiland on those songs, that it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, it's got its bads too, and the only bad I see to it, as from a singer standpoint, is that, hey, if you're going to sing something, sing it like you. Right. That's the way. That's what I've always been told. If you're going to sing something, even if you're doing even if you're out at a drunken karaoke night, if you're going to sing something, sing it like you. Don't try to imitate the other person, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna fail doing it. Now, given I think one of the reasons they snatched him up is because he's got a lot of the vocal qualities that Scott Weiland has. Mm-hmm. So when he's singing, he comes out there's a few things that resonate, on the old tunes with him on there. But when they're making the new songs, and that's something that was in my notes on the new album, when they're making new songs, you can hear him because he can drop any imitation he's got to do. He can drop that, and you really hear what he's got. So that's where it comes from. But I don't know. I've just never been beyond the. I've always told myself if I got hired by a band to do just someone else's songs, I don't know that would be something I would be good at long term. Because I wouldn't want to keep up the charade of specifically trying to sing like someone else. Because I can sound like several different singers, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
you know? I don't sound like me.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, it's a good album. It's energetic. It's better than the last Weiland album, I think. And I mean, it's got good songs, and it's a good continuation of their catalog.
It's not as good as High Rise.
No, I don't
but
think that.
It's definitely better than Deluxe.
Yeah.
And I would say of the albums, if I were to rank them, this would be their. This one would be square in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely square in the middle of the pack. I have 2 or 3 albums that are lower than the stuff with Jeff Goot, but then obviously a handful. The remainder of them are much better, but. This one, the first single I've heard off of this was Meadow.
Right.
And then, because I didn't pick up this album when it first came out. I didn't have that much interest at the time. Because I'm like, oh, new singer, okay, great. So then they start pumping Meadow on the radio. And I'm like, oh, okay, upbeat, it's got its own thing. And you can hear his own voice plainly. In Meadow, he's not trying to channel Scott Weiland,
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing exactly what he needs to do. And it's a good pop rock song. It's a good radio rock song is what it is. Yeah. It's not old Stone Temple Pilots, but it's it's not Tiny Music. It's a radio rock song. It's like Foo Fighters. It's in that realm with because it doesn't have the grit that Stone Temple Pilots used to have.
Right.
And it's like I said, once they got to Deluxe musically, when I said that they found that thing and have kept that polished music sound from there on out, that fast paced polished music sound. That's what you hear all the way through this album, and it's good that way. And it seems like the note that stuck out to me the most was it seems like the band's more focused on catching catchy things that have worked in the past and dwelling on them than moving on to or just operating off instinct or trying to find new ground, if you will.
Right.
So they found their path and they're going square down that path.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned the grit, and I mean the song "Roll Me Under," which was the next single,
Second single,
sounds like you said, just that middle of the road radio rock. But you could hear that song. They could have added more grit to a song like that, and you could hear Weiland singing it, and it would sound like old school STP.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that at least.
Yep.
And I mean, there's good stuff on this. I know when it came out, we talked about it on a podcast, and you really liked it.
I liked that. Middle of Nowhere, Thought She'd Be Mine. I like Meadow. I mean, it's a good album. It's a good record. And
my toes tapped to it. I like Foo Fighters too, and that's what I'm saying. It's but from where it's at, it's middle of the road rock, and it's right where they want to be.
Yeah.
So,
and with what they're doing now with this new singer, I mean, they'll be on all the festivals. They'll be they'll play the Canes ballrooms and the cotillions and all that.
I will say this: he's more of a pop. I would say he's more of a pop singer than Scott Weiland.
Yeah.
Well, we saw him with Jeff at Rocklahoma, and it was a festival set, and they played maybe an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah. And the cool thing was they did both those singles, which some bands might shy away and just do one.
Right.
And so I mean that shows that they're not. Obviously most people that are going to see them are going for the nostalgia reason.
Of course.
Right. But I just saw Alice in Chains, and almost half the set, like 7 songs, were William DuVall era songs.
Gotcha.
And I don't think you'll ever see that from an STP show. But I think moving forward, they're not going to forget this stuff. Years from now, if he's still in the band and they release a second album with him, they'll probably still be playing Meadow or Roll Me Under or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those two will stick with them because they're toe tapping. People remember them. They've got very catchy hooks in them too.
Right.
And just really good hooks that's. Yeah. So, hearing Meadow the first couple times, and there's that one part that just replays in your head, and you're like, okay, yep, got that.
Yeah, it's infectious for sure.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on it a couple times, but we didn't really ever go into any of the guys besides Weiland. And I mean, it's obvious to note that this band's been the same three guys the whole time.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Which I think is what makes the music consistently quality music, whether or not we think the song's as good as Interstate Love Song or Plush or not. It's still well-written music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, musically they found, like you
Yeah.
said, they found their groove and they
Right.
stick with it. From Scott Weiland's last album to Chester, now to Jeff Goot. You take those three albums and run those three back to back, and musically they're all just solid musically the whole way through.
yeah, it's a good.
They weren't trying to do things. They're taking what works and they're mining it and they're doing what works with it.
Mhm.
So, and it's a great formula for making good. Pardon the expression, but it's good pop rock.
Mhm.
At the time now. So, and that's there's not a lot of edgy pop rock out there. It's either like your watered down Maroon 5s and stuff like that, and just everyone trying to do stuff like that, or there's the other end of the spectrum. They're trying to be middle of the road, and that's what they're successfully doing with it.
Yeah.
So, and it's a good way to make radio. It's the same formula Foo Fighters has used for how many years now?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, yes, I mean, it was cool to go through all this because like you said, there's that arc. And I mean, I think it's back up again. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad they're around still, so.
yeah. Because like you pointed out, I mean, people bitch. They're always going to bitch if you have a new singer when a guy's dead or even if he's not dead. And
Oh yeah.
I remember you mentioned on the episode we talked about it, you're like, these guys deserve as much as Weiland. Three guys are in this band. They deserve to go on whether he's here or not.
Well, Weiland went through hell too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He put him through hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad for them that they're back doing, they're not held back anymore.
Right.
As maybe harsh as that is to say, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And drugs are a bear, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can take a band down real fast.
Yeah. Did you guys everybody see him live with Weiland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess the last time I saw him at Bill Street Music Fest, 2011, I think.
I saw him in '98 in Cleveland, and then in 2001, and that was the only times I've seen him live.
Okay.
So
We saw him at the Pavilion with Cheap Trick opening.
That's right.
Was that the only time I've seen him?
That was like 96 or 97. Maybe 90. That was on the Purple album. Yeah.
It seems like,
95 or 96.
I mean, I've seen him with Jeff Goot, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think that was the only time I saw him with Weiland. Jesus.
Did you go to that tour with Butthole Surfers?
No, I didn't go to that one. It was at Mohawk Park. No,
Right.
did not go to that one.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this thing?
they definitely made their mark on music for sure.
Yeah.
Just the first two albums alone, man, were huge.
Yeah.
And the way they just took things by storm, they did it their way.
Yeah.
Every musician aspires to have that kind of effect.
Right.
That's like the precipice of what you expect from music. It's the classic like 70s rock star tale in a 90s and early 2000s package.
Yeah,
where,
sure is.
where the drugs got a hold of them and just
Yeah.
took the train where it wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let me ask you all this on the, just thinking, all the hits they had in their first album and the stories and, all that. Do you think that one day they'll get inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
They'll be in, no doubt.
All five of those bands, because they get thrown in the four
yeah,
bands from Seattle,
Yep.
they get thrown into that category.
Only because they came out at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they were-
Tool broke at the same time too.
Yeah,
You
true.
gotta remember how many bands broke in that. I mean, like literally made their huge break anyway. They may have been going for a couple years already, but made that big break from the '92 to '95 area, and just made a huge leaps and bounds through that area. There's a lot of good bands came out of that realm.
Yeah.
But they always get lumped in with the Seattle scene, even though they're more of a hard rock sound.
Yeah.
They're not. They didn't really. They never struck me as grunge.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the first album has that feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But-
It has the dirty feel to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, say those five bands, I mean, they're kind of more akin to Pearl Jam in the fact that they went in different ways, because Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Nirvana all had different movements, but they're all pretty much down a straight line of what they sound like for the majority of their career outside of, Soundgarden, not the early stuff, but,
Yeah.
But Stone Temple Pilots did a good job of, like I said, expanding on what they did,
Yeah.
whether they whether you said it was a record label or it was their choice or whatever. Not
Yeah,
everybody can say that they went in that many different directions.
Well, I'm a little bit oddball because I loved Soundgarden, I loved STP, I loved Alice in Chains when they came out, but I hated Nirvana at first. I really did.
Exactly the
them.
same.
So do we.
For the first 5 years, I was like, oh, and they're on again, they're on the radio, oh. But then, like I said, then some of those songs started connecting. I don't know how I had that delayed reaction, but
It's that story I've told him. I've told it on the podcast a million times. When they came out, I mean, I thought Alice in Chains was cool, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, those. But when I heard Nirvana, I was like, really? This is sloppy? This is just garbage.
yeah.
And look, I obviously didn't know shit because they blew the fuck up.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
Yeah,
And I still don't really. I mean, one or two songs, but I don't know. I'm not. No.
if I was to rank those 5 bands, they're definitely number 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I totally agree there.
Definitely.
But all right, man. Well, we appreciate you doing this with us. It's
Hell yeah.
fun.
We did
I'm
it.
glad to be here for sure, man. This is
Yeah.
awesome. And like I said, the time I've taken listening to this, it takes you through an arc, and you get to listen to the story of a band basically when you do something like this.
Yeah.
And anybody out there, pick your favorite artist. Listen to everything from day one to present day. Listen to everything they've done, and listen for the changes in their music. Listen to the arc. It's really awesome to do.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
So it's definitely it gives you an experience, and it gives you a way to connect with the band that you didn't previously do. Because there's a lot of people that don't think of doing this. So yeah, and we're definitely on another note looking forward to the Thunder Underground Fest in about 2 weeks from when we're recording this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This will probably be on sometime next week, I assume. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a few days.
About a week and a half. Or
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
there you go. Stone Temple Pilots, every album in a row, featuring our friend Brandon, the vocalist for the band Driver. Big thank you to him for doing that, and also the suggestion for doing Stone Temple Pilots as well.
Yes, definitely. I think it was a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I loved going back and listening to a lot of this more than I thought I would in some places.
Yeah, that's a good point, because for me, like I mentioned earlier, when you had a band like Metallica or Megadeth, there wasn't really much that I'd forgotten about, if that, There might be a few things that I had not
Yeah,
listened to in a
exactly.
while, but like I still knew about them. But with Stone Temple Pilots, there's that middle period, or the later period actually, that I'd listened to it all at some point, but never to a point to where a lot of this stuff was totally fresh. So and that kind of made it a cooler experience too, just getting to hear all this stuff like from the first couple albums that are ingrained in your head, clear up to stuff that are completely lost to you.
Exactly. Yeah, so yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. So if you like that kind of thing, like we mentioned earlier, Motley Crue, Pantera, Alice in Chains, Metallica, Megadeth, Ozzy Osbourne, Van Halen, Kiss.
Yeah.
I think that covers them all.
Just put you on the spot here. Like, what's maybe throw 2 or 3 bands that you'd like to do next, like legit, for real?
Well, we've mentioned, like, every time we've done, well, not every time, the last couple of times we said we were going to do Faith No More.
Yeah.
But, I mean, well, we can just, not like it's needs to be a secret. We've already talked to Jason Carroll about
Yeah,
doing
that's
Iron
right.
Maiden.
Yeah, that
'Cause
would be a great one.
Iron Maiden's one we mentioned way back before anyway.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. So, Iron Maiden would probably be the next one, I would think.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great one. Yeah.
But legitimate ones we've talked about that would be great, I think, are Def Leppard.
Oh, God, yeah.
I think maybe getting crazy and doing something like Aerosmith, because that's
Wow.
kind of spanned a lot of stuff. And then we've also, another person we've talked to is Travis Davis from Claim Your Enemy
Mhm.
about doing the AC/DC one. Like, and he actually mentioned that himself. They did love to do that. And that's one that would be, it's interesting to me because so many people are like, well, it all sounds the same.
All sound the same.
But I think the three of us are
it would be quite a thing.
three of us are like in tune with that band enough to where we could
Yeah.
talk about it without saying it sounds the same.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. Those are some good answers. Good answers.
Well, what about you? Is there anyone that you would love to do that we haven't mentioned?
Oh man, I we haven't done Anthrax, have we?
Oh, right. That's kind of obvious.
I'd love to do Anthrax, Slayer, some of those thrash bands. I think Type O Negative would be cool.
Type O Negative.
Tesla.
Yeah, we've mentioned Tesla.
I think we could do even, something like Ghost. I think we could do. They've got enough now. Where
Do they? They've only got 4 albums.
4 albums. Okay, yeah.
But
true.
they're a good candidate
There's a couple of EPs that have covers and stuff.
They're good candidates since their sound changes.
Yeah, their sound changes. So
Who
I don't
else
know,
is a good
maybe
candidate
not.
because
Maybe
of
not.
that is The Cult.
now that is a good idea. I like that, Trent. I like where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we did Typo Negative, we'd have to get Lola back on this podcast.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding. No
she
kidding.
doesn't live around here anymore, but we could figure it out.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, go back and check all those out. Actually, only a few of them are available on the podcast. The majority of them are on YouTube
Yes.
at The Thunder Underground. We'll slowly be putting those up, the rest of them that aren't on
hmm
the podcast. But speaking of the podcast, 190 plus episodes now. Everything's at soundcloud.com/thunder-underground. You can find it all at thethunderunderground.com. You can listen on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, whatever you listen on, subscribe to it or like it or follow it or whatever. Hit share or like. That helps a ton.
Definitely.
And just go back through and check them out. I mean, we've had on everyone from Gene Simmons, Bruce Kulick of Kiss, formerly of Kiss, Dave Ellefson of Megadeth, John Connolly of Seven Dust. We've had on guys from Warrant, Shinedown, Europe. We had on recently Frank Hannon from Tesla. We mentioned Saxon earlier. Biff Byford was on this podcast.
That's right.
We've had on guys from Black Star Riders, Tommy Victor from Prong, Mike Dean and Reed Mullen, both from COC in separate episodes. We've had on Gumby from Battlecross 3 times. Adam Jode and the guys from Scattered Hamlet 4 times now.
That's right.
Speaking of Driver, with Brandon, he had been on here before with the full band. Mike DiPetrillo's been on here 2 other times by himself, or once
Yeah.
by himself, and then once with Scott from Death Grip,
Yeah.
which was really cool. We've had on Sid Falk, formerly of Overkill.
That's right.
Ted from Death Angel.
Yeah,
Go
Death
ahead.
Angel, fucking Kevin Martin from Candlebox.
Yes.
Wino from The Obsessed, Spirit Caravan, Ian Moore, Jim Wilson from Mother Superior and Motor Sister. Pretty much, we got something for everybody. So go back through, our episodes and just pick something. Kirk Winstein from Curl Bar. I don't know if you said that.
No. Bauer
it's just-
Power.
Yeah, Jimmy Bauer, Child Bite. I mean, it's just, it's vast. So there's going to be something you're going to dig.
Speaking of Child Bite, you see they're doing a run of shows with Phil and Samuel's band again.
Yeah. And,
well, not again. They did it with Superjoint. Now it's with Phil's solo band.
Yeah. And, they're coming to Little Rock. I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything closer,
Yeah.
but that would be cool to see.
Speaking of Phil, we had on, well, like we said, Jimmy Bauer, and Phil, interrupted for about
Phil
30 seconds.
Peeked in for about 30 seconds and, you can hear some words
Yeah.
from the kid.
Yeah. And then Steven Taylor, who was in Phil's
Yes.
solo band and Superjoint, was on here.
That's right. That was a great episode.
Yeah. So just like we said, go back, check it all out. Wherever you listen, like I said, follow, like, share, get on patreon.com, look up Thunder Underground, send us a few bucks.
Why not?
What do we need to buy? Porn and pistachios.
Good Lord. Well, that might not get us some patrons.
Well, porn's free pretty much anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what
So pistachios, Pepsi, and
I don't know if
you still want to get that
I don't know
melon ball
why
there.
you're on the peas. I don't know if you're looking for porn with pistachios in them. Maybe you got to pay for that shit because you're on
That's
some
true.
weird fucking trip I don't even want to know about. But
Hey.
the Patreon is for it helps us with getting the podcast, the merch, traveling to wherever we're doing the podcasts. And if you just want to help out because you're feeling you're feeling froggy, then please jump. We would appreciate it.
That's right.
anything helps.
That is right. And speaking of Patreon, I know you're a patron of Metal Up Your Podcast.
Yes.
There's a good chance you might hear someone from Metal Up Your Podcast on here fairly soon, right?
That would be fucking great. I can't wait.
What kind of questions are you going to ask them? Questions about Megadeth?
No, I'm not. Man, I don't even know. I mean, I've got a few, so it's going to be good. It'll be good.
So speaking of Metal Up Your Podcast, we've mentioned before, or recently when it happened, I was on Alpha Metallica, and you're on Alpha Metallica a couple months ago.
Yes.
But we got a email from a guy who wanted to bring this up.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
awesome.
was going to bring it up at the top. He emailed because he had heard, I guess, the episode I did on Alpha Metallica.
Mhm.
So he looked us up, and coincidentally, he's from Oklahoma as well.
Really?
Yeah, even though he's from southwest of us, sorry.
Gotcha.
He's from down, well, I'll get to that. But anyway, he just said that he discovered our show thanks to Tom Quee, and of course, in turn, thanks from the guys at Metal Up Your Podcast, finding out about Tom Quee,
Yeah.
And thanks to his love for Metallica. And he had got re-stoked when he took his brother-in-law to his first show in Arlington last year. And you're not wrong. It's the best they've ever been. So
That's
looking
right.
forward to this Tulsa show, and would love to hit you guys up if you're doing pre or post-show stuff. Peace out and horns up. So I mentioned to him that we had talked about, doing the pre-show thing for Metallica.
Yes.
And that's something we'll mention, of course, as it gets closer.
Yes, definitely.
But I'd ask where he's from, and he'd said he's from Marlow, Oklahoma. That's
Okay.
south of Chickasha.
Yeah.
And he's coming up for that show. And we emailed back and forth, and he'd brought up the fact that, the Thunder Underground song from Osmosis. And I said, yep, that's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, thanks for Danny for checking us out.
Yes.
In turn, thanks to Tom Quee.
And what's his full name?
Danny Derryberry.
That's right, because I always hear him write in on Metal Up Your Podcast.
Oh, you told me that, yeah.
Yes,
That
so
they-
I knew that name right off the bat.
Yeah.
So thank you, Danny, for writing in. And, what do you mean we've gotten other fan mail and we haven't read it on air? That's what we need to do on air, on the
Yeah.
episode.
Well, yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah.
but for some reason we just never did that. And it's something you mentioned. Well, not you mentioned, like when you told me to start listening to Metal Up Your Podcast because you had wrote in and they read it.
Yeah.
You hear them do that all the time. So I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah, people, write into us. What's the email address?
thethunderunderground@gmail.com.
Write into us. Tell us what you like. Tell us something that on an episode you heard. Tell us something you don't like. Make fun of us, because we'll probably fucking make fun of you right back. So yeah, just hit us up.
Do you have a problem with Bang Tango or Bullet Boys? Because I like both of them.
Well, see, I don't like Bang Tango, so
That was a weird one to pick, actually, because I'm not a
you can
huge
rail
fan.
on them, and I'll agree with them.
You like Beautiful Creatures.
I do. Well, I do, and that's fine. That's okay. That's allowed.
I know.
This is a free goddamn country.
Right?
I mean, not for long with the current administration, whatever.
The last
Anyways,
two administrations. You know.
Well, I'm telling you.
Fucking Sleazebees, what about them?
Oh, man.
I love Sleazebees. I ain't joking either.
What about Slick Toxic?
I never did really get enough into them to know. Shotgun Rebellion, they were good. Spread Eagle.
Dangerous Toys.
We just got on a trip about like
I don't know what the fuck.
the glam bands that like people don't know. I don't know why that's the route I went with it, but I just thought, well, that's the thing people would bitch about. Oh, you don't like metal because you like fucking Sleazebees and Nelson.
By God.
Anyway, I think we just kind of rambled off.
Yeah, I think we're about
Deep end.
done.
Yeah. All right.
I really got to piss, so
Okay. We can hit pause and you go piss and we can come back for another minute and a half.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Well, once again, thank you to Brandon from Driver for doing this Stone Temple Pilots episode with us. And get out there to see Driver at Thunder Underground Fest next week, October 19th and 20th. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.